Welcome to Top M&A Entrepreneurs. Today, my guest is Kevin Ramsier. He is the CEO of Sire Capital Partners and Rival Capital. So right now, if you go to his website, he has got a portfolio of 8 companies. And I'm just going to guess at least $16 million minimum, at least, in EBITDA. So welcome to the show, Kevin. We're going to talk, by the way, we're going to talk about how Kevin got here and what he looks for and how he builds this and how he gets deal flow. So welcome to the show, Kevin.
John, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah. So let's talk about this. I got to go way back, way back. Looking at your LinkedIn profile, you are in the Wesleyan, Ohio Hall of Fame for football. What position did you play?
Yeah, I was a guard. I was played offensive line.
Yeah. How does
Yeah.
one get in the Hall of Fame for an office lineman? Is it the pancakes or what?
Well, someone said that I didn't give up many sacks, but I led the league in holding. So, you got to protect the quarterback at every cost. So,
Hey, that's same kind of deal with Babe Ruth, right? Home
yeah,
runs, but
exactly.
led in strikeouts.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So, Kevin, Sire Capital, let's talk about that. Where did that start? How did that start? Why did you start it?
Yeah, so I think it was from an early age, John. I grew up uh, not with a lot of financial resources. My mom raised me by herself in a small town in Ohio, and if you wanted something, you had to go out and work for it. So I started doing spare mowing yards, everything like working for yourself, basically, because no one would hire you. There's not a lot of employment opportunities in a small little rural town, but I went to college, got out, and I got a job with a big investment firm called Invesco, and I was there. Uh, Multiple success stories there. Rose up the corporate ladder, and 10 years later, I remember like it was yesterday. This was over 20 years ago. I woke up in a hotel room, and I remember looking in the mirror, John, and I was like, I never thought as a little boy I would be this financially successful, coming where I came from, but I was also the most unhappy I've ever been in my life. And I was happier building my own little businesses on my own. And I felt like I turned my back on that dream because I think this happens to a lot of people. I became a victim of my own success.
Yeah.
And, so I remember it like it was yesterday. I just decided I'm going to leave. I'm going to go buy a business and I'm going to grow it myself. And so that was where it all started when I just made this realization, John, that I needed to do some. My core values changed from doing everything I could for the company to the decisions I was going to make from then on out were going to be to build more freedom and happiness in my life. And those are still core decisions that I help make personal decisions on today.
Yeah. I got to ask you about that time that you were looking in
Yeah.
the mirror. This is almost sounds like a movie scene
Mhm.
where the main character gets up in this hotel room. He's alone again. He looks
Yeah.
at, I don't know if you're wearing clothes or not wearing clothes, but let's say you look in the mirror and like, it's a long time. It's just like time goes by. What are you saying to yourself? It's just, I
Well,
don't look like the way I look or what's going on. Yeah.
no, it was more about how I feel. It was, um, I remember driving by businesses as a little boy, sitting in the back seat and looking at all these businesses as I passed by. I'm like, what does that guy do? I want to do that someday. I want to own this. And
Yeah.
I had, uh, I had got caught into, I think, the education system at that point in time. There was no ETA. There was no really, uh, yeah, there was no searchers. I was kind of just doing something on my own that I wanted to buy something that was already existing. But it was a feeling that I had let myself down, and that I did not want to be on my deathbed someday and have regrets and think, man, what could I have built if I would have had the guts and fortitude to go do this on my own. So it was a wake up call for me.
Yeah. And what did you say about the decision? Did you say I got to set a time for because that's the trap, right? We all
Yeah,
look in the mirror and go, I don't like doing this, but I got to keep doing it. And
right.
you never do anything to go to the next thing.
Yeah, it was just a decision that I needed to treat finding a business like it was a business, and I was going to leave and I was going to find something,
Yeah.
and I was fortunate to be able to do that.
And you said I'm gonna buy it, or I'm gonna start it, because that's another trap of
Yeah.
I'm gonna start.
No, I have always wanted to. I think what I learned is I'm really good at something, getting something to the next level that's already existing. I had hair when I started this whole process. So
Yeah, me too, man. That's what
yeah, it's been a journey, but I knew I wanted to buy something that, many many successful business owners start out and they don't ever think that they would be as successful as they are, and they get blinders on. And I wanted to find something that I thought would do well, and if it was doing well in one small town, how could I take that to other towns across the country and to have the same success?
yeah.
Yeah.
And you leave this Invesco. Did you already
Yep.
have something in plan, or you just I'm gonna go cold turkey,
Yeah.
cross the Rubicon, etc.?
I had there was a buildup there of me being curious about industries and opportunities and talking with potential partners and things like that. So I had some things in place that I know I wanted to do. So
Yeah.
yeah, it was I had a good vision and clarity around what I was going to do.
And you had the idea I'm going to bring in partners because of this to multiply my efforts, or just help you with gaps that you didn't have the skills or talent for.
Yeah, it was more of we're going to buy. The first business I bought was with a partner, and we went in and we kind of divided and conquered duties and grew it from there.
Yeah. What was that business?
It was called SWOT Environmental was the first one
Yeah.
that we bought.
And I'm looking at your website, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
It's sirecapital.com.
Mm-hmm.
Partner companies, SWOT. You've exited that company. How long did you own that?
Oh, that's a good question. We originally franchised it, went across the country, and then I exited a portion of that. About all in all, it was probably 10 years. 10 years
Yeah.
running. Yeah.
So let's talk about how you bought that, cap stack, the offers, everything. Because usually when I talk to people on this podcast, it's like that first company always is the template for the
Mm-hmm.
next one, because they make all the mistakes. They write their SOPs in place, and then they kind of take that to the next one. How did that go? Tell me.
Yeah. So we found the seller who was a retired individual who really started this as a hobby, and it grew beyond his control. And he was like, I need help growing this. And it was in Michigan. It was in Lansing, Michigan. He had lived in Florida and his wife had moved to Florida after retirement. So they had a condo there. He wanted to move down there. And so we literally met in a big boy restaurant and closed the deal over
Oh, I
a
love big
conversation.
boys.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's great. It was one of the best breakfasts I've ever had. It was a great deal. We helped him get out of the business and enjoy his retirement. And then, he had a handful of employees that we brought over, and then we grew it from there.
How did you finance that? What did you brought your own money in? What did
Yep.
the dad?
Yeah, we brought our own capital to the table there.
Okay. And
Hmm.
did you pay 50%? How much did you put down on that business? Because a lot of let's say private equity, look for 40,
Yeah.
50% of equity into some debt and then a rollover.
Yeah. So we paid him. He carried a seller note, and the rest we paid in cash, and then we paid that seller. It was a 5-year term, but we ended up paying it off in like 6 months. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What did you learn about? I gotta. Why did you sell it?
It was a private equity firm ultimately gave us an offer that was,
Too dumb to refuse.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And how did you grow that? I mean, you say you said your talent was finding companies that are already at the one
yeah,
position and going to 2 to 4 versus 0 to 1.
yeah. I always think in every business we try to find what's our unfair advantage here. Like, what do we do differently than other people, and how do we lean into that heavily to grow the business? And so I think we were, and I think we still are today. We're really good at marketing and sales. And I was fortunate enough to have a partner who at the time, this was a long time ago, who really embraced Google, and this was a home services business. So we were popping up on every zip code that we offered services in, and we became the number one player in the industry pretty quickly.
Yeah. And who did you put in position as general manager, or did one of that partner sit in? Or
Yeah, that partner was really involved in. We built a custom technology. He was involved in overseeing that, and then getting the phones ringing and making sure that the salespeople were doing their job and closing and saying the right things and not over promising. And then I was in charge of like making sure that we operationally that we had all of our ducks lined up.
yeah, what kind of? I'm curious about the multiple that you paid for that versus the multiple expansion that you created, and what the private equity purchased it at.
Yeah, it was a significant difference. It was we didn't buy it for a lot of money, but we sold it for quite a bit.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
that time, how much did you grow it? Did you say?
Um, it was well, we were in one town when we bought it, and when we sold it, we were in 34 states.
Oh, okay. That
Yeah,
gives me an idea. Yeah.
yeah, it was large.
And that was a franchise, right? And you sold it.
We did franchise it. We had company owned locations. We had a franchise operation as well. Um, and then we kept some core states and markets that we wanted to operate corporate.
Yeah. And this partner you mentioned, you
Mhm.
sounded like that. Is he still with the company, or is this a different person?
He stayed on for a little while. I don't. He's no longer there.
Oh, okay. So how did you come back around? Okay, your second company.
Yeah.
Cool. What
And
was
so
that?
the second company I bought was a company called Rescon. It was out of Colorado, and it was in the restoration space. We brought on really supported a management team to come in and grow that business. We raised additional. That was the first time that I've done this. We raised additional funds. We raised about 60 to 70 million dollars to go out and make acquisitions in the space. And so we basically did a roll up in that space, and that business is still in operation. So it's still
Yeah,
existing.
and that's still under your portfolio. So,
Yeah, we got diluted a lot because those are lessons learned. There's things that I look back and there's things you would do differently, but they came in, and with every acquisition we would get more diluted. So not really actively involved on the board. We aren't in that business, but it's been a good investment for us.
yeah. And is it throwing off kind of like the Berkshire Hathaway that throws off free cash flow to you, a percentage of it, at least of what you own?
In that business, it does not. So typically, when we structure these, we will take on, we'll get a couple turns of leverage on a business. We pay that down pretty rapidly. Today, most of our deals, and not all of our deals, are on our website. We need to update that, but we'll have a lot of sellers stay on and roll. And we've had a lot of success with that, of making their next check bigger than the one that we gave them.
Yeah.
Um,
By the way, I'm going to take a second here and bring up your current partners. Can you see that on the screen?
I can, yes.
Yeah, Rescon. So how big is Rescon? Rescon's, I mean, this type of niche services is really big today, and the franchising.
Yeah, that one has grown primarily through acquisitions. The rest are more organic, the other portfolio companies, but that was the one where we went out and bought, in some cases, larger players than we were at the time.
Interesting. And you
Yeah.
had a private equity or a lender say, "Here's 60 million to work with." That was debt. Say we're ready to provide you debt, or
Yeah, it was a combination. They came in with both. Yep.
okay. And then you've got professional management. They're running that. How do you create this relationship with the professional management? It's like, don't come to me, or come to me anytime you need, or what does that two-way communication look like?
I say Rescon's a little bit of an outlier because we don't control that business. Most of the other ones we do. And in the case of like 58 or Sage or others, we have when we first buy a business, I think it's important. We'll create an organic growth strategy that we want to deploy over 12 to 18 months. And during that time frame, we're on weekly calls with the CEO and the management team and the stakeholders. So we do weekly calls with them, and we help them. We're really good at opening doors. So we help them grow the business by introducing them to the right people, but also solve problems. We want them to bring, hey, this is the thing that I'm struggling with right now. If you were me, how would you fix this? So we want to be very supportive to those teams. And then after that time frame, we'll do bi-weekly calls with all of our management team, and we'll maybe move towards a little bit of getting interested in smaller acquisitions as tuck-ins or add-ons.
Yeah. So let me go back to that conversation you have. Do you start with an imperative, we need to grow 30% or say, and then work backwards? How do we get there? Could be through organic growth, some in M&A.
Yeah, we kind of try to win the battle before we go in. We're working on one right now where we've just closed in our due diligence. We've closed over 7 figures in sales for that company. So hopefully we close on it. But so we will make sure that there is at a simple level. We want there to be greater demand over the next 5 years for this product or service than there is today. And we want to have a very detailed plan of how we're going to go out and capture that growth and then some. And so, it's all relative. Our typical company, our average kind of company that we're buying now is probably a 6 to 7 million of EBITDA. So, and our last transaction was much larger than that. And the prior one was a little smaller than that. So we're really focused on first people. Can we find the right people that we can back to go in there to grow this? And then the industry, like, is this something that we really believe in and there's growth here?
Yeah. Let me ask you about the people. Are you talking
Mm-hmm.
about people that can grow? Some of your players are regional players, and then all of a sudden you want to go national on this to get the growth. Do
Mm-hmm.
you have a group of people that you go to all the time and just bring in their marketing thesis and apply it?
Yeah, so we have a bench of really strong operators that we talk to on a regular basis that are looking. We kind of help them. We get deal flow on our own. We'll pass along to them and share those. They bring deal flow to us. We help them think through that and help them do diligence and help them communicate with the sellers and write the right offers. And we just coach them along through the whole process. And then we come to the table with the capital stack that they need.
Yeah. How deep is that bench? How many conversations do you have to have? So, hey, we got a new project. Are you
Yeah.
interested? And they go, no, I got 3 kids in college. I can't do it. And because they're graduating and they're having a baby, whatever it is. Right.
Yeah. Look, we've had hundreds of conversations. And of those, I would say we've got 25 to 30 really strong, we would say, leaders. That the challenge is early in my career, I moved many times to go build a business and support a management team. And you just don't, it's very difficult to have, we've lost opportunities before because we have a great business in Tampa with a perfect ideal operator in Connecticut, but they don't want to move. So that's one. And I think the other dilemma is I think a lot of searchers want to go after smaller deals. And oftentimes I speak out of both sides of my mouth here because I did a smaller deal, and that's why I don't have hair. The first 3 years were extremely difficult there, getting it up and running and making sure that things were going well. But I just think there's a lot more safety in larger businesses, and we're not coming in and asking people to personally guarantee any of these notes. They're backed by the business. The business is big enough to handle that. So, and that we can pay those people what they deserve and give them some carry and give them great equity consideration, and they become a partner of ours.
Yeah. And that was just through trial and error, your evolution of your thinking. There's less risk in a bigger business than a smaller business. And to all
Yeah,
investors, well, equity, debt, and operations.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. But it's a different mindset. It's hard to get someone to think I'm going to have a smaller piece of a much bigger pie, or I can have the whole pie, but it's a small one. And I'm not saying there's there's pros and cons to both, absolutely, but I think everyone in their head has this balance between security and opportunity, and if we can balance that out for each individual and say you're going to make what you deserve to get paid, and then here's the upside. It comes with some equity and some other benefits that come along with wealth building.
Yeah, I'll give you a perfect example. I have a student right now just going through my courses, just looking at a landscaping business in New
Yeah.
Jersey, and it's only throwing off $280,000 in net or kind of
Hmm.
EBITDA, and he would have to put down a 68% on loan to value for the SBA loan, and he's
Yep.
still very concerned about the personal guarantee on that
Yeah.
because the recourse is like they're going to go after your personal assets. I mean,
Absolutely.
if it
Yeah.
goes
It's a
south,
valid
especially
concern.
yeah, the smaller the business, the riskier it is.
That's right.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. So, what was the third business that you purchased? And I want to just go back to this. I'm going to pull up your partner companies here because I like looking at this. Share screen. All right. What was the next business, the third business that you bought?
So we bought a business called Sage Integration that we currently
Yeah.
own. That's been a great business for us. Sage does security integration. So any technology around security, whether it's facial recognition or security cameras, access control, drones, anything like that, we do for a lot of public utility companies, large corporate headquarters, gunshot detection, stuff like that. And unfortunately, when something gets in the headlines, the demand for those services go up. And so that business has grown dramatically. And that was a business that we actually partnered with a family office on. We brought a
Yeah.
family office in that was strategic for us, um, and helped us open up some doors and helped us think through how we're going to grow the company. And then we ultimately bought them out, and we still own that business.
Now, when you went to them, it was too big to bite off, or what was the reason for bringing them in? You just
So we have a lot of family office relationships, and occasionally, if it makes sense strategically, we will invite them to come in and invest with us. Um, and this was the case here. This business had some hospital clients, and we thought that was a good case for us to go do security at hospitals as well. And this family office had an extensive network in the hospital space, and they came in and invested with us and did very well.
yeah, that sounds like a little bit of a helpful advantage or unfair advantage to say, hey
Yeah,
man, I got access to a lot of customers that fit your perfect profile.
yeah,
Great,
exactly.
you want to come
That's
in?
right.
Yeah.
Yep.
Where do you find all these deals? The Rescon, Sage integration, 58. Where do you find them? How do you?
Yeah, they're I would say over my my career has been spent on calling on centers of influence. And so I've had tons of relationships with family offices, with other private equity funds, with CPAs, financial advisors, these people that have trust relationships built around trust with sellers, with business owners. And
Yeah.
so, and then there are some regional M&A firms that will reach out to us with specific deals. And then our network of operators, we teach them where to go in their local community to build relationships. And we want to be an option. If they run into a deal that is too big for them, bring it to us. And if we like the deal, we'll make sure that it gets done.
Yeah. What are your expectations about the timing on it? Is it more like, not just going to biz buy sell, finding a deal and you go through this? It's like, hey, I'm planting Appleseed. It's going to be about a couple of years before that bears any fruit.
Yeah, I wish I could put a specific timeline on it, but I think uh, we've been. I've talked with an operator that we loved, and 3 months later, we had a deal under LOI, and we've got folks that have been looking for over a year and a half, and just haven't found the right thing. Um, I think it's depending on the industry and the size and the location restraints. if someone is very wide open and is willing to look at a large geography, I think that they can slim that number down significantly.
Yeah. What are your rules for buying? If you read that book, that great book, Eight
Yeah,
Unconventional CEOs, they never overpay. Nobody
right.
overpays. What are your rules about? Will you? And I just remembered a quote that Warren Buffett talked about buying Dairy Queen. He goes, "We weren't going to pay over $28 million. Now,
Yeah,
seeing that it's a multi-billion-dollar company, I may have, if I've seen the future, I may have paid a little more."
sure. Yeah. No, you obviously. I think it's never what you buy; it's what you pay for. And a lot of that. I have a partner now, Adam Altus, has been my partner for almost 10 years, and Adam is really good at structuring, and he's just a phenomenal partner. I couldn't ask for someone better. And so, part of our thesis is we want to get great returns for ourselves and our other stakeholders, our LPs, and the management team. And so the biggest part of that equation is making sure that you buy them right and you structure them the right way. So Adam joined me almost 10 years ago, and about 4 years ago we brought on Aaron, and Aaron was went to Wharton, got out, worked for a big investment bank, and we had met Aaron, and he just brings a level of kind of financial acumen when we buy a company, and look and do our due diligence. He has been instrumental in helping institutionalize our business.
Yeah. Does he do the due diligence, or do you outsource that to a organization?
Yeah, we'll outsource it to a few firms, but he leads it. He does a lot of the qualitative checks and balances on the third party's information. So, we'll do the legal due diligence. We bring in a law firm. We do insurance and risk due diligence with another firm, and then we'll do quality of earnings with typically the same firm every time.
Yeah. So most of these deals are they off market or possibly on market through Woodbridge or Generational or what? Yeah.
No, we've never bought anything from a group like that. We have bought from a regional investment. We owned a company called Integrated Laboratory Services in that I'd call it health tech space, and so we bought that and then sold it for a great return. And that we had a lot of I would say specialized investment banks that were in that space that would reach out after that transaction and say, "Hey, I got this one. Take a look at it." We
Yeah.
ended up buying another business from one of them. But typically, these are I'd say half of our deals are off market deals, and the other half someone ran a process and didn't like what they saw. I look at our companies now. We just had this conversation. A lot of them said no to us at first. Like it wasn't the right, they didn't think it would be the right fit. But, I build a relationship with these people, and we've got hundreds of companies like that in our database that we just keep tripping on. How's it going? How's everything going? So, you just never know. Timing is very important in all of this, as you know.
Yeah. What does build a relationship with these at the moment unmotivated sellers? What does that mean? I mean,
Yeah, I would say I don't know if unmotivated is the word I'd use. I think they know they're getting ready to sell.
yeah.
They know that they probably should. They have a vision of what they want to do other than what they're doing now, but it's timing. And look, we lose more deals that way than we win because we actually help them. We'll help them think through it. We'll help them think through. Look, if you really want to take this to market, here's some things that you should think about. And in the case of one of our companies, even ILS, we were told no, and we ended up buying it and partnering with the seller, who became great friends and now invest in our deals with us. In LL Clink, the same way. They were going to a strategic, and we came in, and they wanted to maintain some equity, and they didn't want to go with a bigger competitor or a strategic buyer. So they came to us and said, "What if we could work out a deal that did this?" And I think one thing that we bring to the table for sellers is the flexible structures that we offer. We are very, very flexible. We don't have a fund. This is our own money and our LP's money. So when we come in, we can think really creatively about solutions to get the sellers to where they want to be.
Yeah. And can you give me an example of what that looks like to profile of a seller. He doesn't want his fingers in anymore, but he wants to make sure that you guys are maintaining quality of the company. But
Yeah.
is it a second bite of the apple kind of thing, or what is it? Yeah,
Yeah, our most successful ones are second bites of the apple, where they'll roll 15 to 30% in some cases, right?
yeah,
And and they know they need to institutionalize the business. They need an ERP system. They need to expand to another geography. They're getting asked by clients to do things. And I always say this because they started 35 years ago with a ladder in the back of their truck and never thought they'd be making $5 million a year in profit. Like they built this business up, and now they and 95% of their net worth in many cases is in that business. So what do I do here? I can take some chips. I still believe in this business. I need a team to come in and help me think through the next phase of this. How do we quadruple it from here? How do we go to other markets? I need someone to help me think strategically through that. But I also need to probably take some chips off the table and plan for my own retirement. So we've
yeah.
been really successful with structures like that.
How do you manage the seller? This is the same guy. The guy that was at a truck and a ladder, and now it's a $5 million EBITDA business,
Yeah.
right? And then you come in with a whole bunch of pencil pushers and say, "Hey, we need to do this and this and this," and they adjust to that rapid change. How do you have that conversation and help them through that?
Um, well, I think success breeds success. So having these sellers talk to other people that we've done this with who will vouch for us and say, these are stand up guys. They do exactly what they say they're going to do. I've enjoyed my relationship with them. They took my business from this to this, and here's where we're at today and where we're going. And I've never been more invigorated about the business now. So, in many respects, we have lots of people now that can do that type of selling for us. Like, hey, call Joe. He'll tell you what we did with his business. And that that's our most powerful attribute, I think, for a seller is talk
Yeah.
to other folks, talk to the handful of other people that we've done this with.
And you
So
set
that,
those meetings up, say, "Hey, call this guy. Happy to
yeah,
talk to story." And he goes, "Yeah, hey, it's so and so from company, talking to Kevin." And
yeah,
oh yeah,
we do
yeah.
that a lot. Yep.
So when a deal, I want to go back to like the deal flow. When you have the centers of influence and somebody says, "Hey, I got this possible guy is looking to sell." He's just mentioned a couple conversations. Uh, and how does that go about? Because sometimes there's a wall of confidentiality that
Hmm.
seller doesn't really want the CPA to be talking about the he's having a conversation selling, or a wealth manager, right?
Yep.
How do you have those breach those walls of confidence?
Well, we typically always sign an NDA, right, and
Yeah,
let them know that. I think it's also imperative. We are that I've been on that side of the table before as well. Like I know how important confidentiality is. I've been through I've been through the emotional roller coaster that you're going through right now or that you're about to go through. Selling a business is the most important decision, financial decision you're probably going to make in your life. And so it's not always about the number that's on the check. It's also who signs that, right? Like you want to make sure that this is your baby that you've built, and you want to make sure that you're handing it over to the right people. And so having third party validation of that, having people that we've worked with, whether it's a financial institution, another seller, another management team, having them talk to that person about our capabilities and how we handle situations like that is important. And then signing an NDA and then getting, we never jump right into tell me about the business. It's mainly the initial conversations are about tell me what got you here and what you want to do in 5 years from now. What do you want to be doing? And how do we get you there? Like that's my goal is how do we get you to
yeah,
that spot? So your blissful 5 years from now, this is where I want to be. Let's work backwards. Here's what we can do for you if you're open to it. And so we start the conversations with really all about them. And that's the most important thing is
yeah.
how do we help them get to where they want to go?
What do those buckets usually look like? Hey, I just want to be spending time with my grandkids. To I want an X dollar number, like $10 million in my bank account,
Yeah.
because I like looking at that number in the bank account,
Yeah.
whatever it is.
John, it's a good question. It varies. We've had people, the one we're working on now, he's like, I still want a significant piece of this business. It's here. I'm not capable of managing a larger team and expanding this out. Like help, I need someone to come in and help me with that. And many times these owners, if they could take a step back off the operational world, take everything you don't like to do, and let us take care of it. We're going to bring people on that can handle it. We might not always get it right, and we'll make quick decisions to fix it, but let us work towards taking those things off of your hand. You say the one instance that we own a company called the Sage Integration. The seller on that business had three big accounts that he loved working with, and he wanted to spend most of his time with those big accounts, getting more business from them. And we're like, why don't you just handle those? You're the face of the business to those accounts. Make sure that those people are happy. Bear hug them every day. Do the thing that you enjoy there. And we're going to bring a support system behind you to grow the business and bring on new accounts and to grow the business. So it has worked well. Again, it's being very flexible around what they want to accomplish.
Yeah. Well, I want to get back to that part because a lot of, you know, when you start selling your company that somebody's grown over 20, 30 years, they have their tentacles in everything and an ego with this. But to grow a bigger company larger, they got to have systems and processes in places. And sometimes those intersect and creating friction. How do you like say, hey, give us stuff you don't like, but he doesn't, really like giving it up that much. He's not really giving indication. He wants to give it up. He just said it, but he doesn't.
Yeah. Um, I think you need to be very clear on the outset with these folks is that this is where we're working towards. This is what we want. You've already agreed. We need a new ERP system that does this, this, and this. We need to be able to implement that. And that change can be very disruptive. And perfect progress does not exist. There will be mistakes that are made, but you got to know all of us have this vision in mind. We are going to get this right and we're going to get there. You have to be patient with us. And along the way, I was in line one time and this lady said this to her children, and I've used it ever since in like board meetings or something. And she said, she was saying this to her kids. She goes, disagreements are fine. Disrespect is not, right? So this goes both ways. We can have disagreements. We're going to. And to prepare them to say, once we get something wrong, we're going to fix it. And you're going to do something that we don't like as well. Like have a understanding. It is like a relationship. It is like communicating with a spouse. You have to be transparent. You have to over communicate. And, you have to show grace sometimes.
Yeah. Oh boy, that's hard, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Easier said than done, right?
Easier said than done. Let me ask you about that because
Yeah.
disagreement and disrespect, and that it's a big. Uh, you remember that, you heard it, you remember it, and you use it. So it had to happen sometime where you had to confront somebody that was maybe subversive, or what was it?
Yeah.
Like, the example I give, I have another student that we were looking at a $6 million software company, and I said, looks cool, looks great. It provides some kind of software to the O&G industry. They always pay their bills. They're never going to go bankrupt, et cetera. But 90% of your clients are this. But he had 6 people that were related by marriage or DNA in the company. I said, that's going to be difficult because if you have a bad month and Thanksgiving or Christmas happens, there's only going to be one talking about one person, and that's you. And that may not be good. So how do you handle that if you do see signs of disrespect that you classify?
Yeah, there's a rule here where we just won't work with jerks either, right? Like at some point you have to put a line in the sand and say, and this happens, I think, occasionally with negotiating LOIs or purchase agreements, or, it's the details that matter. And you can get into some very critical conversations that can get heated. And I just think I've used that line a lot. Like, you can disagree with us, but we're never going to disrespect you, and we expect the same, something like that.
Yeah.
And we've had to pull the plug on some deals because ultimately it was a good thing too, because you want to work with people that you enjoy working with, and if someone's intolerable, there's no way you're going to spend the next 3 to 7 years growing a business with them, because it's challenging enough without working with jerks.
Yeah. Life's too short for that. Yeah.
That's for
Let,
sure.
let, let me go back to the lead flow, and you get this deal from somebody's centers and influence, and then you have this conversation, you sign NDA, and that I kind of imagine they're not 100% sure that they're selling yet, but they say, I'm happy to share the financials. What do they share with you to say, okay, it's over $2 million EBITDA. We kind of like the deal. We're going into a pass or pursue, right? Let's pursue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they obviously they'll share tax returns and financial statements, stuff like that, and we will ask as well, like, what's some of the problems right now that you're facing with, and where do you think, what's a reasonable, give us a narrative of, if you had everything at your disposal, what would you do with this business to grow it? And having conversations around that, get them thinking about, wow, like we could do this, this, and this. And then we come with ideas and good questions about, what do you think of this? And they're not always right, but we'll come with our own questions to say, hey, we have a relationship with this. Would that be a meaningful new client for you if we could bring something like that on board? And we'll talk through that. But to get them first to be transparent about where the business is, about the challenges the business is facing, the reasonable growth prospects, and then for us to get them, if we like the business, for us to get them excited about working with us.
Yeah. And what filters or do you put on to say, hey, we like the business. It's definitely 2 million EBITDA. We let me go back to your partner companies and why you do this.
Mm-hmm.
Our focus, because I like people looking at the screen the same time I'm doing it. So here we go. All right. 2 million EBITDA, which sounds like you do a lot more than that today.
Mm-hmm.
Reoccurring customer base. So that Sage is probably definitely reoccurring. History
Mm-hmm.
of revenue growth. What does that look like? Are you talking about 5% a year? Is there some kind of threshold?
No, there's no threshold. We do want to see some consistency there. If there's big ebbs and tides, and you go through COVID and you see a lot of these adjustments made, we want to make sure that we're seeing stuff that is real and a reasonable growth rate. Um, we definitely like to see. Although, if you look at over the last 5 years on a business, and maybe they had one year where they tried to do something that didn't work or something like that, we factor that into it as well. But we don't want to see volatility in the top line.
Yeah, it's consistent. It's not
Yeah,
fluctuating, 20, 30,
correct.
50% per year. It's just
Yeah.
consistently in and out. And supportive tailwinds. Can you give me a definition of that? I mean, I got a sense of that, but like it's an essential product or service. People need it. It becomes part of what, like I was having a conversation with somebody the other day about purchasing uh, uh, some Amazon delivery services, like
Hmm.
the trucks. And I said, well, I would consider that an essential service today because you can't get away with it, and it just keeps growing.
Yeah. Well, and we use some third parties for this as well to make sure that the industry is growing. But I think if you look at most of our portfolio companies, there's an unbelievable narrative of the industry growing. LL Klink is a 80, 90-year-old company that designs, builds, and maintains massive greenhouses, right? If you look at the data in that space, there's going to be more greenhouses over the next decade than there are today. And it's one of those things now, since we've owned that, everywhere I go, I see a greenhouse now, and it's something that I never would have noticed. There are a lot of them. They're everywhere, and the ability to build the highest customized greenhouse in the industry has given us an unfair advantage of not being beholden to one specific manufacturer or one type of greenhouse, being able to provide a custom solution that we can build and then come in and regularly maintain that and upgrade it. And then if something happens in the event of a storm or a fire or something like that, we can replace and build, and which we do all over the country for insurance companies.
Let me ask you a question about this greenhouse solutions. I don't know a lot about it. I can't speak any
Mm-hmm.
authority, but I grew up in a small town in Wilcox, Arizona, and they built greenhouses. The Dutch came in and built greenhouses to
Mm-hmm.
grow tomatoes, and they made some really robust grow tomatoes, and they killed the market for about 10 years, but they then everybody else started doing it, and they lost that advantage. What are you talking about here? What to?
So you think every big clients of ours are universities,
Oh, okay.
institutional greenhouses. So we just built Ohio State's greenhouse. It's one of the largest, most complex greenhouses in the country. We're doing several other universities that kind of put us on the map, and we're able to grow and showcase that. And now, you get a handful of universities that have some of the top greenhouses in the world. And to remain competitive, other universities have to do the same. And they're starting to reach out and say, if we want the types of students that are coming to some of these other universities, we have to have the correct and the right facilities. So that's a big client. We do a lot of design work. We have a whole design team of architects that will, if you think about the technology, it would blow your mind. It's not just a greenhouse. Inside these greenhouses, measuring the humidity and the water supply and what's in the water, what are you feeding, what chemicals are you putting in these plants or whatever you're growing. And every industry is a little different. And then suppliers, there's large grow facilities that supply to like the Lowe's and the Home Depots and others of the world to their nursery centers. And they are massive, large industrial greenhouses. And, we're not building the small greenhouse that you might go buy marigolds at to put in your garden. We're building massive, pretty large structures.
Yeah. Oh, by the way, the greenhouses were bought by cannabis companies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. That business it was a big part of the business. It slowed down. There was a little bit of an oversupply in that industry, but it's coming back.
Just a little bit. I mean,
Yeah.
based upon
Yeah.
my
Exactly.
my shares of stock in this company that I helped do an acquisition for are worth freaking zero right now. It's an OTC company,
Yeah.
so
It's been challenging. That's been a,
not pretty. Let me ask you about that strategic competitive advantage. When you this is like, when you put a pitch deck together, investment analysis, and you're going to go out to
Mhm.
syndicate it to your investors, he goes, so what's their strategic advantage, right? And you said putting greenhouses in for universities because there's just a lot of money and they build big and whatever. How do you dig and the number of questions you have to ask to find the strategic competitive advantage for each of these companies that you look for? I mean, that to me, that is like, that's the Columbo, right? You keep asking just
Yeah.
one more question, just one more question.
Right.
Yeah.
No, I think in most cases, they already have it. Like LL Clink, for example, and Sage and they had this. They had in-house the capabilities. The world just didn't know about it. Like you've got to scream at the mountaintops, and that's marketing, right? Marketing and sales are completely different in my eyes. Marketing is getting your right customer, the ideal customer, to raise their hand and to say, you know what? Raise their eyebrows a little bit and say, tell me more. That's marketing. How can you get those people to raise their hands? And sales is then building relationships with those people. And so we are just good at that. We are really good at coming in and seeing what the business does really well, telling the right customers that story, and then asking for large commitments from those people.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that thesis because you see it, you come in and there's an opportunity, but sometimes you look at these businesses and you pass on them because they're tapped out on their thesis. Like, well, nobody
Mm-hmm.
else is buying green. I'm just saying this, like
Mm-hmm.
nobody else is buying greenhouses, right? It's a great business, lovely, 5 million, 10 million EBITDA, but we're tapped out unless we go international.
Yeah. Well, in that case, there are really three, I'd say four primary buckets. So we try to categorize these growth verticals And in the greenhouse space, it is design. There's sometimes companies will come to us and say, "Hey, we got to go to some board to get this approved, but we don't have the designs. So we need to design a state of the art greenhouse." So we have people that just do that sometimes to help facilitate a budget meeting or something to get approved for this, which in many cases leads into us bidding on the actual work. We know it better than anyone else. And the second bucket is build. So we have a design, a build team, and then we have a maintenance team. These, things break down in green. We have to come in and do audits and check on all of this stuff and make sure that everything's working correctly, and to sign up a service agreement with these firms. And then a big part of our business is repair, right? A tornado comes through somewhere, and one of the first things to go down, they're not the most stable structures, right? These are plexiglass and metal frames. They can come down pretty easily. And in many cases, sometimes the crops inside these buildings are worth more than the building. So the insurance company wants us to come in and make sure that we protect those crops. So we have crews all over the country that come in and repair those. So getting comfortable with each of those verticals and what's our messaging in each one and how can we grow them significantly, and operationally, how do we support that is, these are fun challenges. So, I think it was one of your other podcasts. I forget which one I was watching, but you're asking, what are challenges or something. And, I think that I was told at an early age that problems don't age well, right? Like if you see something, a problem, you got to fix it. But I also think that there are really two types of challenges. There's good challenges and then there's bad challenges. For us, we want to create a bunch of good challenges. Hey, we got a new customer, or our sales are up 50% year over year. We need to add more. To me, those are good problems. We have to solve good problems. The bad problems hey, are we going to make payroll in 2 weeks, right?
Yeah, yeah,
You want to make sure that there's always going to be problems, but how do we create more good challenges, the ones that are really fun to work on?
yeah. Let me ask you about that, because making payroll, not all businesses have sales going up all the time. What
Mm-hmm.
do you guys put into place, like a constitution? This is like a constitution you put them in place. Like, this is what we do if we're heading towards some headwinds, not tailwinds, but some headwinds. What do you guys do in that case?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to think through that on the upfront. Like, how do you properly capitalize this business? And there are a lot of great resources for that, legal and everything else, to help you think through. And we've been able to do a good job. We're buying these businesses right, and we're buying them in industries that are growing. So, and they're large enough. Early on in my career, there's liquidity issues and concerns. Our business was growing and it all looked good on paper, but all that profit was in to buy new trucks
Going
or
back to more
expand to a new market.
capital. Yeah.
Yeah, we became like this financing company that is like, we are growing at a record pace and we have to fuel that growth. These companies are big enough to avoid that, but you still want them to be properly capitalized, right? And have funding backups, lines of credits, and other things in place that your that your support team, your lenders and your investors and everybody believes in, that we're going to put this much capital to make sure that if things go sideways, we're going to be able to get through it.
Yeah. Let me ask you about this partnership. How do you set this up now that, Kevin's in the spot, then you brought the other guys, Adam, at a later date? How do you set up that partnership?
Um, So Sire Capital Partners is just us three. It's myself, Adam, and Aaron, and so we're all partners, and
Is it like 33-33, or is it kind of a bigger slice because you were there at the
it
start?
doesn't work out to that degree, but Adam and I are equal owners, and Aaron just came on in the last 4 years, so but
Yeah.
he still has partnership in all of our deals,
Yeah.
and he's a vital part of our business.
So let's I'm kind of running out of time here, but let's fast forward from that
Yeah,
moment. This is like, I'm making a movie and it's a script. You're not in a hotel room anymore. You're
yeah.
living at home, and you look in the mirror. What is Kevin saying to himself today based upon the decisions he made, 20 years ago? 2002 was when you guys started Sire
Yeah.
Capital.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's in many aspects, John. It seems like it was yesterday, and then it seems like it's been 50 years sometimes.
Yeah.
But um, I am proud of what we're doing and what we've built and the journey we've been on. I think I always push to want to do more. We do a couple deals a year. We're not doing
You don't have a
20
mandate
deals
to
a
do
year.
3 or 5. You're just doing good deals, 2 to
Yeah,
3 a year. Yeah.
we flip over a lot of rocks, kiss a lot of frogs. We find really good deals that we have high conviction in, and we roll up our sleeves and help them grow. And so we're at a cadence now where we'll have exits and then we'll do a couple acquisitions. So we're at a really good cadence. I'm really proud of what we built, and I was in Adam's wedding. I think I was the oldest guy ever to be in a wedding. But I told my wife if we got married today that those two guys would be in my wedding, and
Yeah.
they're just like my family. And we work really hard together, and we have fun. We laugh every day, sometimes at each other, but we have a lot of fun, and I think that's important.
Yeah. Let me ask you about that, how you select a partner, because it's
Mm-hmm.
easy to have conversations on Zoom or over the
Mm-hmm.
internet, but you don't really know a person until, sometimes they used to say, I used to hear this, like, you don't know a lot about a person until you had some drinks with them or you've been in battle with them, right? Because you could see who
Yeah.
their real personality is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. How do you push that to, find that and see that and go to a point where I'm inviting you to my wedding. You're in my wedding. Right.
Yeah. I do think you have to go through battles with someone too. And I've known Adam for a long time and watched him and his career develop. And Adam, Adam would be a partner at some private equity firm today if he wasn't with us, if he wasn't my partner. So it was a no brainer for me to bring Adam on. He is like, Adam is one of my mentors, right? Like he's 20 years younger than me, but every day he teaches me something. And I respect him so much. He is, I always say, smarter, better looking, and younger than me. And he brings a different perspective than I don't have. And Aaron does the same thing for both of us. Aaron has more financial acumen than Adam and I stacked on top of each other 100 times. Like he really helps reel us in. Sometimes Adam and I can be like, I think I can make everything work, right? And Aaron,
you're, you're a sales and marketing guy. Just like
yeah,
there's nothing that sales and marketing can't fix, right?
yeah, I think we can make it work. And Aaron will like, hold on, he'll reel both of us in and make us kind of take our blinders off and see the bigger picture. And to me, that's the making of a great team when you complement each other like that.
Yeah, yeah. I don't know if you're a Trekkie, but that's who we used to like watching the old Star Trek where Captain
Yeah.
Kirk would ask the intellectual, then he'd ask the emotional guy Spock, then he'd find out what Scotty could do, and it was just around the horn. Gene Roddenberry to me was like a genius. Yeah,
Exactly. Yeah, that's funny.
yeah. Well, Kevin, I want to thank you for spending time with me. I'm already up on the hour, and I think I could go more. But so thank you so much for being on Top M&A Entrepreneurs.
John, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to stop.